Robert Downey Jr. has had a rise, fall, and rise story unlike anyone else. He had critical and commercial success when he was young, fell down the rabbit hole of substance abuse and legal issues, and then surged ahead to eventually become the highest paid actor of the 2010s. He debuted in 1970's Pound at age 5 alongside his father, Robert Downey Sr. The two have an interesting relationship. RDJ says that his father let him try marijuana at age 6, and that their relationship to drugs was a point of bonding for the two. In Junior's words, "When my dad and I would do drugs together, it was like him trying to express his love for me in the only way he knew how." Small film roles and stage roles followed for the next several years. His career was looking up in the 1980s though. He did movies like Tough Turf and Weird Science, and had his breakthrough role in 1987's Less Than Zero, which is adapted from a Bret Easton Ellis novel. It's worth pausing for a moment here. In Less Than Zero, RDJ played a drug addict. In a 2003 interview with The Guardian, he mentions the character, a junkie, started as an exaggeration of himself, and then he became an exaggeration of the character. Counterintuitively, his role as Julian Wells was widely praised. Perhaps there is something to the whole art imitates real life thing. In 1991, while working on Air America, he formed a lasting friendship with Mel Gibson, one that would help him return to acting after many arrests. Still, that was still some years away. In 1993, RDJ earned a Best Actor nomination for playing Charlie Chaplin in Chaplin the year before. The role helped keep him employed throughout the 1990s, with movies like Short Cuts, Natural Born Killers, and Richard III. But as the millennium wound down, his troubles increased. While he was on the big screen for his film roles, he was on the small screen and in the papers for his arrests. In 1996, he was arrested for possession of heroin, coke, and an unloaded firearm. While on parole, he broke into a neighbor's house, high, and fell asleep in their bed. Then, after missing a court-mandated drug test in 1997, he spent 6 months in the Los Angeles County Jail. A couple of years later, he missed another drug test. This time, he was sentenced to 3 years at Corcoran 2, but was released after a single year. All the while, RDJ still had movies coming out from things he had already filmed. After release, he won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor for his role in Ally McBeal. Concurrently, he continued to spiral. This tenuous balancing act between acting and addiction continued for years. Unfortunately, his demons were winning. He was fired from Ally McBeal and forced Mel Gibson to cancel a Hamlet play where he had cast RDJ as Hamlet. Things were so bad, RDJ couldn't get insurance. Why is this an issue? Because films need completion bonds, which are used to convince financiers, lenders, and distributors that the movie will be completed on budget and on time. Artist liability insurance is meant to protect against the risk of an actor being unable to fulfill their role. No insurance, no money. His issues would continue until 2003. It was a vicious cycle of substance abuse, arrest, rehab, and relapse. It wasn't until Mel Gibson paid for RDJ's insurance bond in 2003's The Singing Detective that he finally returned to the big screen. The movie was a critical and commercial flop, but it helped convince studios that they could count on RDJ to not screw things up. His next big role was in 2003's Gothica, alongside Halle Berry. RDJ agreed to have almost half his salary withheld until after filming Wrapped, which became a standard feature for his contracts in case he relapsed going forward. But they didn't need to worry. The movie made $140 million on a budget of $40 million, and Joel Silver, director of Gothica, helped RDJ get cast in Shane Black's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, a black comedy that won critical acclaim. 2003 was a turning point for him. This is where he met his future wife, Susan, who he married in 2005. In a 2008 interview, he mentioned that he'd been clean since July of 2003, thanks to a combination of meditation, therapy, a 12-step program, yoga, Wing Chun, and a commitment to his family and Susan. Just as much, I think the fact that Mel Gibson stuck his neck out for RDJ and fronted the money for the insurance bond made RDJ want to get better, or at least not mess up. It's one thing to be cast in a role and get money for it, even if part of it is withheld. It's another to have your own friend of more than a decade, who you already screwed over once, hold his hand out for you to grab onto once more. RDJ kept going from here. He was in several well-received films for the next half-decade, including A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, Good Night and Good Luck, and A Scanner Darkly. He released an album in 2004, The Futurist, and was cast in 2007's Zodiac, which earned critical acclaim. In 2008, everything changed. RDJ was in the critical and commercial success Tropic Thunder and, of course, Iron Man. He was cast by Jon Favreau, and the move raised a few eyebrows. Even by now, he wasn't free of his past. As Favreau said, quote, Downey wasn't the most obvious choice, but he understood what makes the character tick. He found a lot of his own life experience in Tony Stark, end quote. Iron Man, of course, was a massive success, making $586 million on a budget of $140 million and earning universal acclaim. By the end of 2008, RDJ had signed on to 2 sequels and an Avengers movie. He had the most successful movie franchise of all time on his hands. The last decade of RDJ's life has been consumed by Marvel. It helped make him the highest paid actor of 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2019. Since Endgame, his most visible work was 2022's Senior, a documentary and tribute to his father that won universal acclaim. RDJ has more roles lined up, and I think we can still expect a long, healthy career from him. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you want to check out Downey's works, I've linked to a page that has them and where they can be streamed in the description below.